Today has been chaotic and not like the other days, and I had intentions for today. That's because we had Italian guests, people from who write for magazines, from the newspaper, come to look at our work and have like a meal with us in a different space than we typically eat together. And yes, the Italian way is not very scheduled and structured, so things were like all over the place, and I was put on the spot and played piano rather poorly, but people loved it apparently. I have stage fright. I can't play very well in front of other people because it's like a psychosomatic reaction. Even if I want to, my hands will shake. But the message around it that I was thinking about, because what my guidance clicked in, because I was noticing that I was agitated, because I was like, I wonder what we're gonna, if I have time to do this, or when this is gonna happen, because I'm part of a group, but I'm also trying to do my own thing, and I've only got a few days left here, and I want to wrap up my pieces. So the message I got was like, don't force anything, right? The flow of today is the flow of today for a certain reason, so go with the flow. And even though you had a plan about how you wanted to work and do things today, you can release that and just be, one with the group and let things play out. Okay. Bottom of the deck, we have the Four of Pentacles. So again, working on stability. We have the Page of Wands. We have Judgment. We have the Queen of Swords again. We have the Fool again. And the Hermit. Okay. Cut the deck. Wheel of Fortune. So yeah, 4 major arcanas here. The Page of Wands is a step up from the Two of Wands and the Three of Wands that we've been seeing in the readings for the past week, that are about moving into, right, they're the early stages. Page is like a higher level of the page energy, but still with the walking staff looking out. I see this as progress and continuation. And a little bit more of what I was talking about with hope and serenity around the star the other day, because it's an ability to connect with, in the Ace of Wands card, that seed of idea, that inspiration. This is that being the guiding light at this point. Judgment makes me think about what I talked about today with just going with the flow, which doesn't really seem like there's a connection there, but I'm going to read again. Well, first I would like to just read for the Wheel of Fortune because it came out, but it shows that opportunity is abundant. All things have a cycle, both good and bad. One makes you appreciate the other, and each can offer new options to the situations faced. So this is luck, change, karma, destiny. With Judgment, we're at a crucial time for self-evaluation, reaching a new life, purging out things that hinder us, rebirth, renewal, freedom. So with the idea of releasing expectations around how something needs to go, whether it's a day or a week or, your whole career or your whole expectations around certain things that you're trying to create. Freedom from attachment to those expectations is what's going to give us a lighthearted ability to step into the new. And I see that together here. But the lighthearted not necessarily lighthearted, just an ability to you attach the energy of your heart, your emotion, your mind, how you're thinking to a higher wavelength. This goes back to a much earlier video about, I think I called it something like, all of existence is a guitar chord strumming for eternity, because those different chords, right, those different vibratory waves, you can locate yourself on them and transverse it to be in a different wavelength entirely, and therefore like a different reality. Sometimes people always look on the negative side, and sometimes people look on the bright side, and that's vibrational in nature. So not necessarily lighthearted, but a buoyancy to give yourself the opportunity to rise onto a more positively expectant wavelength. A more positively expected wavelength. But also, again, she came out yesterday with that clarity and that precision and that authority. You being the utmost authority in your life. And what I was saying before about being stern with yourself, being honest with yourself, but there's a nurturing quality too, right? It's not the King of Swords, it's still the maternal, the intuitive. And then we have the Hermit. I'd like to get a clarification card on the Hermit, in fact. The Hermit advises you that now is a time for reflection. You must look inward for truth and wisdom, for you have all the knowledge that you need inside of you. Be calm and reflective. Do not let the outside world distract you from the messages that you hold within. Introspection, enlightenment, solitude, and reflection. Yeah, so, I mean, I like Judgment, right? We're still in, I think, I've been getting, maybe this is personal, but I think, as with the cycles in nature and collective energies, something will feel different after this full moon that's coming up, and I actually don't even know what sign it's in. What sign will the moon be? It's going to be a nice full moon, and I think it's going to feel like a lot. The energy will be ramping up as we move towards this full moon, especially with Judgment here, and I think that the like in the birth canal analogy, the water will break and the cosmic mother will start birthing, pushing these new lives out, these new paths out. And the phrasing of like the water will break, it's Cancer season. So when a woman goes into labor, that's like the beginning of it's a beginning of another phase, right, of applying energy to creating a birth. So that's why I think that Judgment is here. But I see this as all being incredibly balanced, because you have kind of like this boy, right, with a little dog, hop, skippity, yay. Leap of faith, new beginning. He's got a little satchel. And then tempering that leap of faith with a little bit of like idea and passion and keying into what is the stuff that we're being drawn towards. It's all very abstract, because I think about these things and it's like, yeah, I'm sort of saying the same stuff every day, but each and every day I feel different in the world. The energy feels different. I apply these different things to my afternoon, to the way I'm painting, to things that I'm thinking about retroactively that I'm trying to heal from the past. Like, there are different ways to go about applying this to what you're going through in life. But so then with that kind of lighter energy, the Hermit is something of a serious card, right? Taking time out, connecting with your inner self. They both, for me, are reinforcing that, like, find the truth that's within. Because I think they're supporting us, because there's a possibility right now for the mind, right? If we're close to a breaking point of unfurling a new layer of ourselves, being a little bit more honest with ourselves, releasing some of the stuff that's held us back so we can come into greater balance. They're here, these energies are here to support us in doing that, because we could be susceptible or prone to not doing that work, because again, the thing of like water moving in a path, taking its trough of least resistance. This is my clarification card for the Hermit, please. Yeah. So I connect strength to the Hermit. 8 is the number of this card, infinity. Makes me think of temperance again with that continuum of water that goes back and forth between the cups. But what I'm seeing here is that strength, you could envision like a strong, powerful, masculine energy, but they choose to depict this with a soft feminine energy who's, tamed the lion. The lion sits with her. She doesn't fear it. It's a companion. That's what inner strength should be. True strength doesn't have something to prove or force or push. So I was saying again, like, don't try to force an agenda of things right now. And it's such a delicate balance to have ideas and make changes, but then not let the outside world impact your ability and your inner knowing to affect those changes. And that's what I talked about yesterday after I was mentioning that I had a conversation about non-traditional relationships and family structures with somebody. We were just bouncing ideas around and talking about our own beliefs in relation to that. And I was saying, like, I think in my video yesterday, like, we find something, a choice, a person, a way of living that really does feed our spirit, and then we go along with it, and then people will judge it, or there's always going to be somebody that doesn't like the way that you want to do something, and we're strengthening a muscle right now in allowing that to be the case and not let it affect the progress of that, because that energy in most cases is not in most cases, I don't want to say that, but it can be enough to make somebody stop and go back to the old way, or turn around and let the judgment of others affect you, basically. And you can't do that. And what I see with strength, cultivating the strength of self, the strength of knowing, the strength of the connection to the intuition, is that things are going to be moving quickly. And I'm talking about the water breaking, right? When a woman goes into labor, sometimes it takes a long time, but sometimes the baby comes very quickly. It's all about applying energy, but simultaneously releasing resistance and letting things flow. So again, what's coming up for me, 8 of Pentacles is here. Using time in solitude to think about how you want to build and apply things in the way that I was mentioning in a video from the other day about baby steps, right? Stacking up these pentacles. He's working on one, but he's got 2 behind him, some overhead. 8 again, so we've got 8 with the infinity symbol, which is indicative of the fact that this is an ongoing process in life, but right now it's got all this other energy around it. So it's more of a pivotal time to think about how you want to build your life and take steps. Hell yeah, baby. I've been waiting all week for this card to flip over naturally, and it finally has. So that's incredibly special, because we got the Empress yesterday and now the Sun. Those are my 2 favorite cards in the deck. Like, I like to meditate with the Empress card, the Empress energy, thinking about my higher self, or a 100-year-old version of myself who can be, who I can use to, release myself from self-judgment, try to make sure I'm still in alignment with, like, in good service to others, not being in my ego too much. These things, like, I see this as the Sun's gonna, illuminate all the path forward. There is happiness here, and we're able to kind of connect with the brighter side of the changes that are happening at this time. Yeah, Bottom of the deck again, Magician. Because we are accepting, understanding, and implementing more of our true co-creative potential to manifest things. And what we have here is a really beautiful, balanced amount of elemental energy, or energy with which we are, it's the matter that we're weaving when we think of our lives, right? The practical, the idea based, the emotion based, the communication of those ideas within our own minds and selves to others. So there isn't a Cups card out, but being in Cancer season, approaching a full moon, which Cancer is ruled by the moon, it's a implicitly watery time, and a lot of the I think collective changes or are emotional in nature, how we feel about ourselves, how we feel about the things in our lives. And that's, emotion is root. Emotion is root. Understanding. There's a root emotion to everything, even if the conscious mind isn't aware of it. And then after we can uncover that root emotion by spending time with ourselves, right, which is something that we're being pushed to do in more ways than one, then you start to create, your plans, and you take your actions, you set your boundaries, you prove to yourself enough why you feel the way you feel. It's self-validation, right? So that the judgment of others will not affect you, so that you can confidently take baby steps and not, get through half of these and then be like, this isn't the right way. You're going to know it's the right way because of the facts that you've accepted that you're not going to be able to see the whole road. It's just about the baby steps, because more will come into sight, and that's going to be happening more and more quickly, which is something, it's a concept of spiritual momentum. So whenever you have velocity in a certain direction, if you've been doing certain things a certain way, you have to put on the brakes, right? An object in motion will stay in motion, and to bring it to a stop takes an application of energy. So that's what we've been doing. Now it's the pivot. Like, okay, why was I going in this direction? The pivot, the reversal, the turnaround, and now building that speed and that momentum and that energy, flowing energy to new channels, grounding ourselves within our own bodies and our minds while this very non-physical stuff is at play, right? You could be next to somebody who's in serious emotional turmoil and not know about it because of the way they're presenting. So being able to manage that pivot into a different direction, allow the different pieces of that puzzle, the different layers of the subconscious, the root emotions that we're being asked to key into that are going to illuminate certain patterns, that trace, however back into your lives, or like foundational twists, things that need rewriting. That's a process that we've been doing to some extent, to whatever extent that may resonate for you. And then starting to let things move more freely in that direction, because we're fueling it with joy. We're seeing the potential of making changes being a positive thing. And, there is no Three of Swords here today. There is no Nine of Wands. There is no Ten of Swords. And those cards have been the ones that have been pretty much daily, right? So to have something as beautiful as the Fool, the Magician, the Sun, Strength, all major arcana, in lieu of those, the detritus, right? The detritus of like, I see it as a result of having the mind, body, spirit, right? The different elements, the different layers to this, the idea, the emotion. There's come in a synthesis of those things, whether or not we would articulate it or be able to put our finger on it, that is giving way to a deeper sense of trust. Yeah, lovely. We have another page. It's the Page of Cups. So here is that emotional energy coming in. Being a little bit more open to offer our emotional self out to the world, and therefore Three of Cups, have collaboration, celebration with others. Extend your lighthearted energy to the people around you and believe that you're creating something that's going to lead to more stability. I also see this again, I keep pulling cards, so more and more going to come out. There's going to be another increased amount of energy at play on the table, but it's speaking to the thing that I started the video with, of like, I have intention to start my day and be alone and work, but I had to go with the flow and release that and just make it more of like a social time, right? And have faith that I don't need to always be working, on my stuff. There is a time and a season for everything. So it's like Three of Cups, celebration, social, communing with others, but hermit, so being alone. It's kind of everything everywhere all at once energy, right? I'd like to get top of the deck and bottom of the deck. Queen of Wands, lovely. Nurturing, strong, creative, and yeah, there's so many signifiers here of what I was saying before, that this is a really beautiful portal, especially, I haven't even talked about, and right, the 8-8 of strength and the 8 of cups, moving towards August in the Lionsgate portal, which is always just it feels like a different, like just as a metaphor, like it feels like for some of the weeks in August, we just live on a different planet, and certain rules of the universe suspend themselves and things can happen, and it feels different energetically. And this cycle in this year, with all the numerology at play and all of these things converging, there's potential here to create really long lasting stability and happiness. And it's not like when the summer's over it's all going to be in place, but it goes back to what I said with, and here's the Wheel of Fortune. I never took it out of the deck, but it wants to come back out, right? So that's what it's saying. The intention is the seeds that you choose to plant, and then you'll know how to water them because you planted them. You know that you're there. You're the one who will have chosen what blooms for you throughout the rest of 2023. And I'm not even going to go into 2024, but the wheel's turning. I know that we have Knight of Pentacles, so we talked about him the other day, but again, baby steps, calculated energy. I also see, what I see is we've got Queen, we've got Hermit, we've got Fool, Three of Cups, like multiplicity, people. It's and there's a lot of masculine and feminine energy in this. I would say it leans more with the feminine energy because it's still a very intuitive process, but with the Pentacles and some of the action steps, right? I almost see and interpret Queen of Swords as she's the more masculine oriented queen energy, which speaks to balance, right? Having that nurturing feminine side, but the ability to then execute and take it into the world and not just live in the dreamland. I see this as being very well supported by what I was talking about yesterday, but I didn't post that video. I think I have to edit it together. It was a little all over the place, so I'm not sure it'd be that engaging to watch at all, but I was talking about connecting with spirit guides and spirit team and the difference between being psychic and a seer and mediumship, which is not what I do. I don't see, ghosts. There are some people who have had the experience of having like ghosts basically, come up to them and talk to them when they were kids and they didn't really know the difference, right? Imaginary friends and stuff. But guides that walk with you, ancestors, I work with saints, Saint Simon, Saint Paul, the archangels, Archangel Metatron of Sacred Geometry is what I channel to do like light language and fractal like grid drawings. So there's a lot of support, a lot of different kinds of energy in support of us. I said yesterday, what you want is wanting you. And when we go back to the Akashic field stuff, if everything, all energy, all people, all things happening are different micro avenues of the same quilt, different sides, you know, a perfect holographic, it's one structure, it's one thing, but there are different points that we see reality from within every individual. The total object wants to realize itself, right? God wants to realize itself through the expression of creation and the building of worlds and beings and societies and all these different lives and stuff, which I was talking about yesterday too, to kind of venture to say and suggest that it's not meaningless. What you do matters, and we have such a vast potential to create meaning in other people's lives, be a good positive influence in other people's lives. Oh, I jinxed it. Well, okay, give me clarification. So then, if the Three of Swords is still here, which is heartbreak and loss, then why? Queen of Cups. I mean, what's at the bottom of the deck? The Ten of Pentacles. Okay. Yes, it's clear now. So we've got the Nine of Pentacles, we've got the Ten of Pentacles, the Queen of Cups and the Ten of Pentacles. It's, what I'm getting is that in some regards, we still may be afraid, even though we want certain things, we have plans, we know what we'd like our lives to look like, we know what we want to manifest. We still have, you know, against our own volition, it's like this subconscious fear around actually being successful or actually being emotionally fulfilled, and residual damage or feelings of the fact that it's not safe to be open. And it's interesting because no matter who you're interacting with, if this is a collective energy, then if you feel that way, then somebody else will feel that way. If you're interacting with somebody, then they'll be, you know, guarded. You'll be guarded. That person will be guarded. So it's like everybody can let their guard down, you know? But that comes with this type of preparation and discernment around hermit energy, again, reflection, really going through the truth of things, asking to see things in your dreams that show you the truth of things. And I shared I had like a strange, well, I didn't post this video yet. I had a strange cobwebby dream and I was pulling them off of me, and it was like this weird, it felt like these like sad, congested, weird things that I was pulling off of my body and getting rid of in the form of cobweb. And last night I had another, like, that dream was tame in comparison to my dream from last night, which was just quite disturbing. And it was like this symbology, I won't go into too much detail, but the symbology of it was the purging of the broken self, and not seeing yourself as a victim or broken, or like, you know, you can't act in the world, you can't make choices and do things and then wonder what everybody else thinks about it, you know, is this okay? Because if it's okay with you, I'm not saying nobody else's feelings matter, but it goes back to like letting people, whether or not they're like, you can't do that, but the way that people around you may move can make us move. And if they're used to us moving in a certain way, we can go back to moving in that way, even though the universe is trying to get us to do things differently. So my dream was, there was a girl that sort of looked like me, and I thought she was dead and her body was all broken, and I was fishing her out of a pool, right? And that's water, that's emotion, and there was brokenness, and I was retrieving her, right? And it was kind of like this reclamation of a broken self, and strange dream, laying her body out to dry in the sun, and her becoming alive and animated and getting up and saying to me, "I'm fine, I was just resting." And I'm gonna cut the deck to get a card for that. Yeah. So the pain of looking at certain things that we need to change or admit to ourselves, or sifting through the cringeworthy stuff and making peace so that we can make plans to go forward. And once we can attach our hearts and our motivation, it's an ambulance siren, right? And I'm talking about retrieving this broken body. But she was just resting. She wasn't dead. Our system, our like instinctual system, it's just getting louder, isn't it? It can signify emergency, right? And this goes into inner child. If you were punished or beaten or abused as a child, you'll be very, very cautious of messing up as an adult, because the punishment for that is dire and severe. And so that can manifest as somebody who doesn't take accountability. They don't admit when they're wrong. It's not that you become a perfectionist, like maybe it could mean that. But it's more so about like you don't want to be put in that position, so you don't put yourself in that position because it feels like an emergency. And really, it's just that hermit energy of going into a place of rest and reflection. And here you go. I had cut the deck to get some clarification on the dream, and I got 4 of Cups. But before I had Queen of Cups, so this is a perfect balanced pair, right? It's moving through kind of this circus of balancing emotion. Queen of Cups, King of Cups. Coming back to the seat, you can rest, you can sit down, the seat of the heart space, which is like, I know that so many of the things I say are like really cheesy and corny, but it's because they're true. And that is where illusion will lift, and you'll see that there's truth here. Fear is what creates illusion. Trusting in what you feel is what creates clarity. But this can be really hard. You see swords, it's a swords card. It's a brokenness in the emotional state, but it's also, swords are of the, I get like Gemini, air energy. That's a mental game, right? But I do believe from this reading, what I'm getting is that it's subconscious. So we want the things, but there's still something holding us back from that. Integration is what I'll call it. So okay, I'm also getting something else, which is how I've talked about how a big dream or a big change or a big plan takes a sustained amount of energy applied to it in order to pull it into the physical world, because a lot of elements have to align. And if you're used to too much instant gratification, or if you let people talk you out of your own, dreams and visions, as that time is passing, as those elements are aligning, then they're not going to be aligning anymore, because you're not going to be believing and fueling with your dream vision. You get what I'm saying. And so when things arise that seem like, brokenness, there's a constant, that's one of the linear cycles that's happening in the big transit. Things arise, you release them. You want to be really fluid in Cancer season. You want to be able to say, like, today was a you don't want to be in a position of judging things like it was a bad day. I thought things were good, but they're not. That's not what this is, because it's a water season. It's a water time. These are lovers. They're not fighters. They let things be as they are. And because of that, there's ultimate harmony, going back to flowing with things, flowing with the day, flowing with the timing of your life. And this plays into the moon and sun energies that I was getting yesterday, talking about divine masculine, divine feminine energy. And again, I put this as a disclaimer in the caption of that video, but I do believe that everyone possesses both energies, but that certain energies are more dominant in certain people. So it's just about the energy, and you can be in a same-sex relationship with divine masculine and divine feminine energy, and people know that and stuff. I just want to make sure that people think that I'm not just strictly speaking on limiting things, or exclusionary wording. I don't mean to use that. So just being able to know, oopsie, I'm getting a phone call. Being able to know that when the emotions come up again, whatever it is, like that's not a stopping point. It's not saying you were wrong about everything, go back and start over. It's saying take some time to rest. Take some time to rest. You don't have to beat things back from you or fight. It's strength again. And it's what I said about, right? Strength. Wait a minute, this is getting to me too much. Where did that card just go? Oh, here it is. 7 of Wands, right? So 9 of Wands was all about him standing there with a scowl on his face, being like, I just have to stand my ground. I keep people out. I'm defensive against these things that are changing, or like, I have a reason for why I do that way. You rationalize things to yourself, again, with 7 of Swords, like a sneakiness, snipping away parts of the narrative or your own ability to see things and reflect on them honestly. And we do that to protect ourselves. The Knight of Wands character has now, taken up one of his wands, and he's actively fighting. And I said, these are not fighters. These are lovers. They flow. This is not flow. This is not flow. I'm hearing it's always darkest before the dawn. You go through what you need to go through, because what I said about this card the other day is that whether or not the pain is like acknowledged, it's still there. And you could see strength, as I said before, as like, a man who's like a fighter, or like a soldier, or like battle, like strength, archetypal imagery. But it's about the peace and the ability to temper and sit with the truth of things. Because really what we're afraid of is getting what we want, I think, and doing things. It's almost like it's hard for people to sustain visions and apply the right steps because it takes hard work. We don't see the result of it as the days pass. So there's a fear of like, am I putting my eggs in the wrong baskets, right? If you choose to pursue a career path, or you choose to invest in a relationship, it's like each day that passes, you can wonder if it's not the right thing, instead of, if you believe that it is, if you want it to be, if you're actively engaged in the playing field of your own life to make things the best that they can be, and that's what you're magnetized to, then it can't not succeed, because you're going to continue to channel the energy of your soul, right? There's a lot of potential. One human can do a lot of things. And so it's currency. Energy is currency. It's how you pull through. It's how you contribute to every second and what you do. And so in the heart space, in the mind space, in the actions that reflect those things, don't let the little stopping points along your journey totally dissuade you. You have to keep burning the torch of progress and moving forward. So here we have a more classic, like strong, character coming in. And we love to see it, the Emperor. So this is really great because the Empress came out yesterday, and it's been a lot of information about the moon, as we are in Cancer season. The moon is waxing into a full. We're talking about intuition. But the Emperor is now here in like, you know, a grounded, understood, balanced male ego with male, like, a masculine energy of understanding their role in the world and their way in the world. And he isn't, you know, fighting with wands either. In fact, he has an oracle, you know, he's got a crystal ball. And holds that power in like a self-possessed way. And what I'm seeing is, you know, I said, with the car, we change our habits. We realize that we don't want to go in the direction we're going in. We put the car in reverse, we turn around, we start applying our energy in new ways. Finally, within this cycle, the masculine aspect of ourselves and of the collective, or like in your, if this is pertaining to you in like a relationship, even if there is a two-part tango, the male energy is stepping up to push this along now so that we don't have to question ourselves and worry and go back into cycles of heartbreak and loss and self-sabotage when things don't pan out as expected. So that would be an exceptional note to end on, but I just sometimes can't get myself to find a good stopping point. I want, you know what I'd like to ask is the full moon coming up. I pulled the 8 of Wands, and I was with the Wheel of Fortune, or they came out at a similar point in time. So things are speeding up, and we're gonna have to, I think, like quickly get a handle on the way we feel about things now, because then the water breaks and like labor begins for whatever, you know, transits I've been talking about. So my question, what I want to end the reading on and get a clarifier for, is what that's going to look like within ourselves, and how we can just take one more piece of advice for sustaining that, right? And what I said in a different video the other day was like, you don't have to worry when something's meant for you or it's your passion. You don't have to worry about things slipping away. Like, he's not concerned about losing anything. It's not that every day is going to be perfect and stable. It's that the process of moving things forward, taking time out to reflect, appreciating the abundance that we have, reflecting with the people in our life, taking these baby steps. Where are you? I'm looking for the 8 of Pentacles, basically. I can't find it. Working while we appreciate our abundance, while we recalibrate, while we let emotions surface and we release them. We do the dance of we accurately do the choreography for how the world is trying to move us through these changes. And I think it's like, you know, they say that life doesn't throw anything at you that you're not equipped to handle. And so this has been a lot energetically. A lot of changes happening now. Solstice, and then moving into the Lion's Gate. But it's like we're just beginning with the Emperor coming out, the Sun. We're just beginning to feel better about it all. And I think at the same time, the energy is going to kick up to make it like, okay, well, now I feel like it's getting away from me again. How do I continue to remain in control and feel balanced and not slip back into like autopilot-y cycles of like letting the world move us, instead of strengthening our energy and our connection to ourself and the world around us enough to remain cognizant, conscious creators in alignment in each and every moment, right? So I'm asking for what we need to know as I want to say delight in this mastery. We see ourselves gaining momentum in a new direction, or at least we can imagine that that's what's going to be taking place. And as things pick up, this is where our focus will be needed. The star, we know her. Again, it's about that true, like, I just see her as like, this is a beautiful vignette that's separate from everything else. I don't even want to put it down there because this is the North Star, right? The guiding light. Getting in touch with your soul and your wishes and that fulfillment and letting that be the thing that keeps you. I see somebody in a small boat on a big turbulent ocean, but they keep looking up at the sky. And because they keep looking up, you know, the turmoil doesn't seem so choppy and there's something to follow. It is a light from within. It has to do with the intuition and cultivating that. And then we have a sweetness of nostalgia, thinking about the things that that truly do make you happy and hearkening back to childhood in order to discover that and remember the truth of who you are so that you can key into this thing that's going to be your guiding light.